This story is titled, "At our family barbecue, my sister made a joke. If you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice." Everyone laughed, except me. I just raised my hot dog and said, "Challenge accepted." I moved out that night, cut contact, and vanished. A year later, they're holding a reconciliation brunch. I just got a text. "Please come. Mom's crying in the potato salad." So here's how it started. A hot dog, a family barbecue, and a joke that landed like a brick through a stained glass window. If you're wondering what kind of person nukes their whole family dynamic over one sentence, well, hi, I'm Evan, 29M, formerly the background character in my own family's sitcom. Quiet, sarcastic, that guy you remember when the Wi-Fi stops working or someone needs to lift heavy furniture. I come from a long line of loud people with big opinions and zero impulse control, so my role has always been silent resentment sponge in cargo shorts. Our cast includes Sierra, 31F, my sister, certified star of every family function, master of the backhanded compliment, and passive-aggressive sarcasm queen. Mom, 57F, cries when you change the TV input, thinks trauma is a personality, loves baking and ignoring red flags. Dad, 62M, ex-military, big fan of grilling things and yelling at CNN. And then there's me, the guy they forget to mention when listing how many kids they have. Anyway, last July, we had our annual family barbecue. Picture overcooked burgers, undercooked opinions, and enough emotional tension to snap a lawn chair. Everyone was there, cousins, neighbors, that one uncle who thinks Bitcoin is a personality. I was doing what I usually do, hovering near the cooler pretending to be fascinated by seltzer options while trying to avoid yet another conversation about how I'm still single, but at least not gay. Then it happened. We were all sitting around the patio table, plates balanced on paper towels, because heaven forbid we use the good stuff. Someone had made a dumb joke about me, still being mysterious, and Sierra just, without missing a beat, laughed and said, "If Evan disappeared tomorrow, would anyone even notice?" Cue laughter. Not nervous laughter. Not the haha, "That's dark, are you okay?" kind. No. Real, stomach-clutching, knee-slapping haha. "Good one, Sierra." Laughter. Dad chuckled. Mom actually wiped her eye. One of my cousins snorted lemonade. And I just sat there, holding a limp hot dog on a paper plate, watching everyone laugh like this was the funniest thing they'd heard since Mom tried to use TikTok. I raised my hot dog like a glass of champagne and said, "Challenge accepted." They thought I was joking. Hell, maybe I did too. But I wasn't. I went home, packed a bag, withdrew all my savings, and by midnight I was halfway across the state in a Motel 6 watching infomercials about kitchen knives sharp enough to decapitate a moose. And I didn't say a word to anyone. No notes. No texts. No dramatic, "You'll miss me when I'm gone" monologue. I just left. And now, exactly 1 year later, I get a text from my cousin Maggie, who was always the semi-decent one. "Please come to the family brunch tomorrow. Mom's crying in the potato salad. They think you might be dead." Ick what to tell them anymore. So Reddit. Ida? So yeah, I ghosted them for a year. Full blackout. No texts. No birthday cards. No tragic Facebook post about taking time for me. I became the lost sibling. Like some indie movie character who vanished after a breakup with capitalism. Meanwhile, my family apparently built a narrative. According to cousin Maggie, a saint in a swamp of emotional arsonists, here's how it played out over the year. At first, they assumed I was doing one of my dramatic moods. Then came the group chat accusations. Sierra said I was probably freeloading off some girl. Dad said I was on drugs, probably weed. Mom Googled cults and cried during an episode of Dr. Phil titled, "When Your Son Joins a Sandal-Wearing Commune." Eventually, someone called the police. Cops did a welfare check at my apartment. Maggie said they found it empty, clean, bed still made. No sign of struggle, just a single open Amazon box on the floor containing a humidifier and a book titled, "How to Stop Caring What People Think," which apparently really set Mom off. They filed a missing person report. A literal missing person report. My own family told the cops I might be dead because I stopped texting them back and didn't show up to Thanksgiving, where last year they forgot I was vegan and served me a plate of canned corn in judgment. Fast forward to yesterday. I get Maggie's message about the reconciliation brunch. I almost ignored it. But the phrase "Mom's crying in the potato salad" unlocked something deep and unhinged inside me. Like, part of me wanted to stay free forever. But the other part? The part that's still 12 years old and wants to break a glass at the table and scream, "Do you see me now?" That part kind of wanted to go. So I did. I show up 15 minutes late in an Uber with a duffel bag and emotional baggage that could crush a horse. They rented out a private room at this overly cheerful brunch place called Sunshine Griddle and Company. You know the type. Fake wood paneling, waitresses named Destiny, pancakes that come with a tiny flag in them like breakfast is a goddamn victory. And there they all were. Mom sobbing into a mimosa. Sierra in a blouse that looked like it was made of passive aggression. Dad in his usual, "I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed you don't watch football" outfit. Maggie saw me first and did the wide-eyed, "Don't start a scene" look. The second Mom spotted me, she gasped so loud a toddler dropped his waffle 3 tables over. "Oh my God," she wailed. "He's alive." I barely got past the coat rack before she grabbed my face like I'd just crawled out of a shallow grave. "You have no idea what we've been through," she sobbed. "I haven't slept since August." "You commented El Mio on a Minion meme 2 weeks ago," I said. At 2 a.m., Maggie choked on her coffee. That's when Sierra stood up, arms crossed, and said, "You know, you could have just said you needed space like an adult." I sat down, poured myself some orange juice, and smiled. "Sure. Right after you said no one would care if I disappeared. Like an adult." The table went dead silent. Dad cleared his throat. "Let's all just enjoy breakfast." We ordered the family sampler. I looked down. Pancakes, sausage, eggs, the works. And right in the middle, a giant, trembling bowl of potato salad. So there I was, sitting at a table with people who once laughed at the idea of me disappearing, now sobbing into carbs like it was the Last Supper. Emotional dysfunction edition. Mom's mascara was halfway down her cheeks. She kept dabbing at her face with a cloth napkin like she was auditioning for Real Housewives of Emotional Collapse. Sierra was aggressively buttering toast, which I think was supposed to signal self-control, but just looked like she was punishing gluten. Dad hadn't looked me in the eye once. He just kept cutting sausage into increasingly tiny pieces like he was trying to prove something to his therapist, who, to be clear, he refuses to see because shrinks are for people who can't mow their own lawn. "Why didn't you say anything?" Mom finally wailed. "We were worried. You filed a missing person report," I said, then posted on Facebook that I was probably finding myself on a beach somewhere, with a crying emoji. "That post got 84 likes, she sniffled. "And 2 comments from your Zumba friends saying I always seemed off." Dad put down his fork. "Can we not do this here?" "Oh, I'm sorry," I said, smiling sweetly. "Would you prefer we scream about it at Christmas like normal?" Maggie was trying to crawl inside her mimosa glass. Meanwhile, Sierra leaned in, resting her chin on one perfectly manicured hand like a smug cat. "Honestly, Evan, the whole thing was pretty theatrical." "Right?" I said, "because I'm the dramatic one, not the woman crying into a mayonnaise-based side dish." That was it. Mom burst into full-on sobbing again and collapsed into Sierra's arms like a deflated souffle. "He doesn't even miss us," she gasped. "I made his favorite deviled eggs and everything." "I'm allergic to eggs," I said. "You were just being difficult about that." And that's when I realized none of them had changed. Not really. I vanished for a year, gave them the silent treatment so complete it made ghosting look like a group hug, and they still couldn't take accountability for a single damn thing. The best part? Someone had brought a gift basket. It sat in the center of the table like a peace offering from a suburban hostage negotiation, filled with homemade banana bread, inspirational magnets, and a card that said, "We miss our mysterious little man. Let's forgive and feast. Love the fam." I opened the card, blinked, and asked, "Who the hell wrote this?" Mom raised her hand. Sierra helped. Of course she did. I pushed my chair back. "You guys want forgiveness like it's dessert. Like if you spoon enough guilt on top of some French toast, I'll just forget the years of being invisible." "You were never invisible," Dad muttered. "You just acted like no one ever understood you." I laughed. Out loud. Real and bitter. That's because no one ever tried. No one moved. Even the waitress stopped mid-step with a tray of orange juice like, "Oh no, trauma brunch table 5's back at it." I grabbed a scone. I needed a win. "Y'all can keep the deviled eggs. I'm taking this scone as payment for the therapy I'll need after this breakfast." Mom gasped. "Evan." And I turned to Sierra. "You remember saying no one would notice if I disappeared?" She didn't answer, just stared. I leaned in close. "Well, you noticed. I should have left. I really should have just taken the banana bread, set fire to the group text, and disappeared back into the peace of non-existence." But something snapped inside me. And once it snapped, it didn't unsnap. Because here's the thing no one tells you about being the forgotten one. Once you taste being gone, it becomes really, really hard to sit quietly at a table full of people who never really saw you to begin with. You noticed, I said to Sierra, and the room froze like God hit pause. She blinked. That was a joke. You're seriously still mad about that? I laughed. Sharp. Loud. The kind of laugh that makes people stop chewing. You humiliated me in front of our whole family, I said. You made me the punchline in my own life. And everyone else? They just laughed. No one said, hey, maybe that's too far. Not even once. Mom dabbed her eyes like this was a sad Lifetime movie and not a war she helped start. Honey, you always take things so personally. Because they are personal. I snapped. Jesus, Mom. It's not a quirk. You treated me like a weird roommate with a Wi-Fi password, not your son. Oh, please, Sierra cut in. You always made yourself the victim. You disappeared for a year because of one comment. It wasn't one comment, I growled. It was every comment. Every holiday. Every time you made a joke at my expense and everyone else just let it hang in the air like that was normal. Dad finally looked up. You could have said something. I did. Every time I left early. Every time I went quiet. Every time I smiled while choking on it. I said it in all the ways you didn't bother to hear. Silence. Mom reached across the table, hand trembling, the universal gesture for let's not do this here. We just want our family back. I flinched, pulled my hand away. You want the version of me that kept showing up. The one that took the jokes and stayed late to help clean up and let you pretend everything was okay. You don't want me. You want the ghost that smiled politely. You're twisting this, Sierra said, arms crossed. This whole thing. You ghost us for 12 months, and we're the bad guys. You are, I said flatly. Because I disappeared, and no one came looking. Her face changed. I saw it. That flicker of guilt. That second too late. You don't get to cry now, I whispered, eyes locked on hers. You laughed then. That hit something. She looked away. Finally. I stood up. If this was supposed to fix something, if this was your grand plan to hug it out over scrambled eggs and pretend like a year didn't happen, you failed. Maggie, bless her bleeding heart, whispered, Evan, please. I shook my head. My voice broke, but I let it. I needed you. All of you. Once. Just once. And instead, I got a punchline and a plate of pity food. Then I walked out. Not stormed. Not ran. Just walked. Like I'd finally stepped out of a story I never asked to be part of. The brunch behind me dissolved into murmurs. I didn't look back. And no one followed. I thought that was the end. I walked out of that brunch like the credits should have rolled. Cue melancholy indie music, fade to black. Evan goes back to his peaceful ghost life eating pad thai in quiet cafes where nobody calls him the sensitive one. But the universe? The universe had more content in the pipeline. 3 days after the brunch, I got an email from my bank. Your password was recently changed. If this wasn't you, please contact us immediately. Except, I hadn't touched that account in over a year. It was one of the old ones. The Evan from another life, accounts I'd left behind along with the people who laughed when I disappeared. Still had a few $1,000s sitting in it from an old freelance payout I never got around to transferring. I froze. Called the bank. Got a very chipper rep who told me yes, the password was changed. Yes, a withdrawal had been made 2 weeks ago. And yes, get this, the transfer went to a shared family account. Whose name was on it? Sierra. I didn't believe it. Not even her. Until I dug into the details. Not just Sierra, Mom was listed as the secondary contact. Dad as the emergency backup. My name wasn't even on the account anymore. They'd scrubbed me out. While I was gone, living off ramen, working nights, rebuilding my brain piece by piece, they declared financial free-for-all on my leftovers. Quietly. Casually. Like vultures dressed in Hallmark card sweaters. And now? Now they were crying into brunch and begging me to come home. No. Hell. No. That's when something inside me shifted. Hardened. The grief went silent. The sadness stepped aside. And a new voice, cold, clear, and calm, stood up inside me and said, Burn. It. All. They wanted me gone? Fine. They were going to see what it looked like when I truly disappeared. But not before I made sure every skeleton in their walk-in closet got dragged into the light. You want a redemption arc? Too bad. This is a revenge story now. I didn't pull up receipts. I didn't need spreadsheets or credit card logs or forgotten email threads. What I needed was them, in their most curated, performative, filtered form, and then I needed to tear that illusion apart. So I went for the one thing they cared about more than control. Their image. See, my family's always been obsessed with how things look. Not how they are, of course, just how they look to outsiders. Sierra with her matching holiday pajamas and Pinterest-perfect brunch spreads. Mom with her inspirational Facebook posts about the strength of family, written in cursive over a picture of a beach. Dad pretending he's a salt-of-the-earth working man while sipping his whiskey in a country club sweater he keeps just for the house. So that's where I struck. I created a new Instagram. Fake name, blank bio, no followers, no posts, just one purpose: to tell the truth. I started with throwbacks. Family photos from birthdays, vacations, holidays, every smiling, forced hugging, side-eyed shot I'd ever been tagged in. But underneath each one, the real caption: Thanksgiving 2019. They made me eat in the garage because there wasn't room at the table. Christmas 2017. Smiled through this whole day knowing Sierra told her boyfriend I was probably autistic as a joke. Dad's 60th birthday. He told me I was a failure in front of 40 people and asked the waiter for a smarter son. Everyone laughed. Each post was time-stamped. Each photo real. Each caption devastatingly true. I tagged no one. I didn't need to. People found it anyway. Because Sierra's friends? Mom's little Facebook army. They live for drama. And once someone recognized the photos, it spread like gasoline on a kitchen fire. People love watching a perfect family burn. The DMs started rolling in. Friends from high school, old neighbors, Sierra's ex who always kinda liked me better. Is this about your family? Holy shit, dude. I remember that Christmas. They really said that to you? And then silence. From my family. For the first time ever, they were the ones scrambling. They knew it was me. Of course they did. Because no one else knew exactly what Sierra said to me that day at the barbecue. If you disappeared tomorrow, guess what, sis? I disappeared. And now, everyone's watching you realize what you did. The first message came from my mother. We need to talk. Please. Simple. Pathetic. One of those texts you send when you're standing in the kitchen barefoot and spiraling. I didn't answer. She followed it up with a voice memo. Probably thought hearing her sob might melt me like I'm still the obedient middle schooler who cried when she joked about putting me up for adoption during a yard sale. Spoiler, it didn't. Then came Sierra. Okay, seriously, what the hell are you doing? This is so messed up. You're making us look like monsters. Grow up, Evan. This is petty and disgusting. Oh, sweet irony. Now I'm the one making them look bad. Incredible how quickly they go from laughing at your disappearance to panicking about your reappearance when you stop playing by their rules. Then I got the group chat notification. I had been added to a new thread titled Family Healing. I nearly choked on my coffee. Inside, a parade of guilt-drenched absurdity. Mom posting Bible verses like emotional duct tape. Dad sending a thumbs-up emoji with zero context. Maggie dropping in screenshots of concerned tweets from people saying, "Wow, I always thought the Walshes were so picture-perfect." Sierra just typing "unbelievable" over and over again like she was trying to will the algorithm to erase me. Still, I didn't respond. Didn't post. Didn't move. I just let them simmer. Because I'd already done what I needed to do. Crack their facade. For the first time in their carefully curated, casserole-carrying lives, they couldn't control the narrative. They were exposed. And they hated it. The best part? Other people started chiming in. I got DMs from distant cousins, old classmates, even one of Sierra's former roommates. She talked so much shit about you. I always thought it was weird how obsessed she was with putting you down. Your mom once told me you liked attention more than air. I didn't believe her. Glad to know I was right. This account is brutal and also deeply satisfying. I hope you're doing okay. It was the first time in my life I felt seen. Not pitted. Not brushed off. Just understood. And not because I asked for it. Because I took it. Meanwhile, their social media pages started turning quiet. Birthday posts turned off. Comment sections locked. Family photos vanished. Sierra posted a story of her cat with the caption, "Wish people knew the whole story." Someone commented, "Maybe your brother would have stayed if you weren't such a monster." She deleted it in under a minute. I screenshotted it anyway. For the scrapbook. And me? I was back in my cabin, drinking iced tea, watching the rain. No chaos. No noise. Just peace. And the slow, satisfying sound of a house of cards collapsing under the weight of its own lies. Let them panic. I'm done explaining myself. When the knock came, I knew who it was before I opened the door. They always send the nice one when the bombs start going off. The diplomat. The peacemaker. The one who still thinks this is just a misunderstanding we can brunch our way out of. It was Maggie. Hair frizzy from the rain, sleeves pulled down over her hands, clutching something in her arms like a peace offering. Banana bread, probably. Classic guilt loaf. She looked up at me, blinking hard. "Can I come in?" "No," I said. No hesitation. She shifted her weight. "Please." I sighed and stepped outside, pulling the door half shut behind me like I was afraid she'd slip in with the wind. "I just want to talk," she said. I folded my arms. You all seem real interested in talking now. Her lip twitched. They're falling apart, Evan. Cool. I'm serious. Mom hasn't stopped crying in 3 days. Sierra deleted her socials. Dad's been calling people, trying to find you. He can call God next, I said. See if he knows where I went. She flinched like I'd thrown something. They're hurting. Are they? I said, voice steady but sharp. Or are they just pissed the spotlight isn't flattering anymore? Maggie looked down, then back up. You're better than this. There it was. The oldest trick in the emotional con artist playbook. Flatter the black sheep so he doesn't burn down the barn. I was better than this, I said. I was better than them. And all it ever got me was a seat at the kids' table and a lifetime subscription to being a punchline. They didn't know they were hurting you. They didn't care. Silence. She held out the Tupperware she'd been cradling. Banana bread. Of course. Mom made this. She said you always liked it. She also said I was the reason family dinners felt tense. But sure, let's lead with baked goods. Her hands trembled. Can you just try to forgive them? I leaned in just enough for her to hear me breathe. They didn't come looking when I vanished. But now that their public image is melting like fondant in the sun, I'm suddenly valuable again? No. Forgiveness isn't free. And I'm not handing it out like hors d'oeuvres. They're your family, she whispered. No, I said, and this time, I meant it from my bones. They were. Then they laughed when I disappeared. Then they emptied my bank account. Then they weaponized brunch and group chats and gaslighting like it was a second language. Tears spilled over her cheeks, and she didn't wipe them. I didn't know what to do, she said. I was scared of rocking the boat. You were afraid of getting wet, I corrected. So you watch me drown. She stepped forward. I stepped back. You want me to come home. But the truth is, you all never made space for me there in the first place. You loved the echo of me. The polite, convenient ghost. Her voice broke. Is this really the end? No, I said. This is the beginning. Mine. Then I took the banana bread, turned around, and closed the door behind me. Soft click. No drama. Just distance. Just peace. And Maggie, still standing in the rain, realizing too late. The ghost didn't come back. The ghost moved on. It's been 2 months since the last knock on my door. Maggie didn't come back. No one did. The group chat I never replied to went silent. Eventually they stopped trying. Even guilt runs out of battery eventually. And me? I'm still here. Same cabin. Same porch. Same quiet mornings with strong coffee and no one asking why I'm so sensitive or when I'm going to get over it. But something's different now. I'm not waiting anymore. Not for a text. Not for an apology. Not for that imaginary version of my family where they show up one day, teary-eyed and transformed, ready to be what they never were. That version? He's gone too. There's something strange about the silence after revenge. You think it'll feel like triumph, like slow-motion applause under dramatic lighting. But it doesn't. It just feels like your own voice finally has room to echo. And I've learned to like that. I go for walks now, long ones, without looking over my shoulder. I buy myself groceries without hearing my mom's voice in my head calling almond milk hipster nonsense. I light incense and play vinyl and read books without anyone asking if I'm still doing that yoga thing. And sometimes, in the middle of it all, I just stop and look around like, is this it? Is this peace? It's not perfect. There are still moments when I scroll past old photos, still moments when I wonder what it would have been like if they had just tried, really tried, to love me the way I needed. Sometimes I miss the idea of family more than the people themselves. But I don't go back. Not even in my mind. Because once you learn how to breathe in your own air, you stop begging people to crack a window for you. They still exist. Out there. Probably still telling themselves I overreacted. That I was too dramatic. That I always had issues. But none of that matters anymore. Because for the first time in my life, their story about me isn't the one I live in. I write the narrative now. And yeah, maybe it starts with a hot dog and a cruel joke. Maybe it spirals into petty chaos and a banana bread war and the kind of Instagram account that makes therapists nod slowly with concern. But it ends here. Right here. In this quiet, ordinary moment where nothing dramatic is happening. No one is screaming. No one is crying into potato salad. No one is performing. It ends with me. Finally okay. Not healed. Not whole. But free. And that's enough.